Hello and welcome to Tyrrell's Classic Workshop. We are doing a workshop catch-up this time round, and it's a real, to use a media expression, smash and grab job, because we are in the middle of a very busy part of the year, the summer. Everybody wants to be out in their classic cars. In spite of the fact that as I stand here and say this, it's actually over 30 degrees in continental speak, or over 90 in Fahrenheit, so it's warm enough. We've got the Bolesworth International Al-Shirah Concours this weekend, so we're preparing cars for that. Last video we did a showcase on the carburetors on a Lamborghini Miura, so I'm just going to invite Corey and young James to come and join me. We've had, now that we've rebuilt these carburetors, as per the previous video when you had them all laid out on the trolley, they're back together, they're in the car, we've tried the float heights, we've had the car running, and the float height in the carburetor is critical. Wherever the float is set to cut off, the needle valve is set to cut off the fuel supply into what is effectively a tiny petrol tank, minuscule petrol tank in the carburetor. If that level is not right, the amount of weight that the fuel is putting on the jets at the bottom, the orifices that come out of the tank, it's critical, and you either have too little fuel distributed in the carburetor or too much. So it is super critical. So we've now had a couple of attempts at getting the float levels right.
Yeah, we've had a couple of attempts. I mean, the float heights on this, according to Lamborghini, are 14 to 14.5 mil off the deck, the top of the carburetor. So I set them to 14 initially, but it doesn't seem to like that very much, so we're going to go to 14.5 now, which is what me and James are currently just working our way through, and then we're going to have another go with you at tuning the car again to see because when you were moving the idle mixture jets, they were responding, but not as you would expect. They were almost, they were almost on their seat, weren't they? Leaning out, leaning out, leaning out.
Exactly.
And from what you were saying, you suspect there's not enough weight of petrol pushing pushing through those idle mixture jets. So.
The idle mixture screws on Weber carburetors historically, as a starting point, should be 1 to 1.5 turns out, and they were barely off their seats. They weren't even half a turn out, which tells us that there's too much fuel in the bowl and it's pushing too hard on the idle circuit down below. Gravity is causing it to be richer, too much fuel versus air. So we can sort that out. I mean, this is a very interesting car. It's the 23rd Miura built. I did a video on this a couple of years ago. These really are quite exhilarating to drive because they are so visceral. They're lightweight and very much point and shoot, rather than the later Miuras, which are a more rounded and refined package. Each has its own advantages and disadvantages, but we've almost got this nailed. The carburetors, I don't want to worry you, but I did hear yesterday how much a set of these carburetors have starting to change hands for now. It's about $50,000 US, maybe more.
No pressure.
Yeah.
No pressure whatsoever. Yeah. Well, this is a car I'm going to be featuring in a video on its own in the near future. This is a Rolls-Royce Corniche fixed head, or coupe, and these are quite a rare car, actually. They almost, because there were so many magazine reports about them at the time, and they were in pictures of them were in newspapers and whatever. People generally thought there were a lot of them around, but they made a handful of these only. I will try and dig the statistics out, but this car has come from Greece for a service. It's done 28,000 kilometers only, about 22,000 miles. So, and it's all very original. There's just a couple of things I've noticed on it already. The fuel pump is an aftermarket, non-original fuel pump. It's far too noisy at the back end. This car is not a fuel injection car. It's got the twin carburetors on it. Therefore, the fuel system is very low pressure. It's an SU fuel pump, which we can get easily enough, fitted to a lot of classic cars. So we'll replace that. But this car is delightfully original. I'll show you one or two things about this car which are really, really cute. This car is strikingly original. It really is. Every millimetre of this car, seemingly, apart from tyres and consumables and that, is original on it. The woodwork is still beautiful. The car left the factory with this, what's called a standard dash roll. So from here down is called the knee roll in Rolls-Royce speak, and from here up is called the dash roll. This is VM3218 Connolly beige Vomol, this leather, which was one of the standard sort of colour palette colours. And you could order, this is black vinyl. A lot of manufacturers used vinyl instead of leather for the dashboard because it behaves better in sunlight. Leather tends to shrink. Problem with early Lamborghini Diablos. I remember looking after a sort of 91, 92 Diablo at the time years ago, and the leather had actually shrunk because the sunlight had dried it out, and it had actually pulled, and you could see the corners over the dashboard there. So that's why a lot of the manufacturers used vinyl, and it also doesn't fade as much. But you could, as an option, have the knee roll in Connolly hide as well to match the seats, and then you could maybe have a brown dash top roll in maybe a darker leather, or something like that, or even black. But the light colour would, of course, reflect badly in the windscreen, particularly in a sunny climate like Greece. So, but this is how most of them came, with a black vinyl top roll and knee roll, and they just look very right. This dashboard is just a work of art, really. This, some people might not even know what this is, which is a bit of a generational thing. It's a bit of a worry, actually. But this is a 8-track tape. So it's one continuous roll. So the tape comes across the heads here, where it's scanned, where the magnetic particles pick up the sound, and then it is on an infinite reel inside here. So it's got a maximum of 4 songs on it only. But this was a brave new world in the 1970s. It was transitioning from vinyl to the 8-track cartridge. The sound quality, because the tape is so wide, I think it's 1/4 of an inch or 3/8 of an inch, the sound quality on 8-track was very good, and you had genuine quadraphonic sound. So there actually used to be, I don't know whether it's here or not, there used to be a demonstration cartridge come with the Rolls-Royce Silver Shadow, and obviously the other models, and it actually demonstrated the phenomenon of quadraphonic sound coming out of that speaker, then this one, and this was, of course, enthralling to your average Rolls-Royce owner in the 1970s, and then out of that speaker and that one, and it was all down to this. Of course, the big disadvantage with them is 4 songs and big size, and the compact cassette, which we used to all know and love, actually superseded these, even though these were higher quality, because you could get more information on a cassette. It was thinner, the actual tape was thinner, which meant less quality, but it doesn't matter. It was more convenient, but it's just an absolute delight to see an 8-track actually still in the car with a collection of 8-track tapes from another era. When I bought my Lamborghini Espada, 3 years after starting Tyrrell Engineering, in 1987 that was, I bought it from a customer. It had its original 8-track player in, which had been in it from new. Just a lovely, lovely piece of a snapshot of technology. Well, we're never far away from a classic Ferrari or few here in the workshop either. And this is quite an interesting snapshot we have here. This is 2 contemporary Ferraris. They're both late 1960s. But this is they both have exactly the same engine, more or less. Maybe slightly different cam profiles, but minimal differences. This is a 330 GT 2+2. Very rare in right-hand drive. John Lennon owned a one that was a slightly darker shade of blue than this, but these were a Gran Turismo Ferrari 4, and they were a genuine 2+2. So 2 seats in the front and 2 reasonable seats in the back. Mechanically, very conventional. Front engine, transmission, prop shaft, live rear axle. So the rear axle is held on by cart springs, actually very, very rudimentary really, but it works. These are great grand touring cars. One of the first things to do is put some heat insulation around the transmission tunnel and the floor pans and things like that, because the cabin heat can be quite bad on them actually. This is a lot of classic cars, this is not this model in particular, but it's almost a sort of given that that is done to reduce the cabin heat. But right here we have the 330 GTC. So this is 330 GT 2+2, this is 330 GTC. Same engine, as I say, but mechanically quite different. This is under the skin more like a Ferrari Daytona than this. So it's this one's more exotic cousin. So this has the engine, same place at the front. Then it has a torque tube going along with the prop shaft to the transaxle at the back, which is a 5-speed gearbox plus reverse, located between the back wheels and independent rear suspension. The weight, I mean, Porsche used this to great effect in their 924, their 944, 968. Lots of manufacturers opted for the engine at the front and the transmission at the back to help with weight distribution. Bit more weight at the back, better traction, less wheel spin, etc., more controllable. But this car is a 2-seater only. A good size boot, but it's a more compact car than this, but it's very interesting to have two Ferrari 330 GTs side by side. We've just rebuilt the engine on this. As regards the installation of the engine, the gearbox, the engine goes in the front, then the gearbox can be offered from inside the car up to the engine, then the center console is put on, and then the seats are put in, and actually this car is quite a long way along that process. So Marcus is about to put the passenger seat in, and they've been working on putting the console in. So it's a bit of a kit, really, as all these cars are, but just a little bit different. The Aston Martin DB4, 5s and 6s, and in fact, most Aston Martins up until about 1969 used that system as well. You actually bolted the center console over the transmission in the car. You didn't put it in from a solid transmission tunnel underneath. Important part of Ferrari history. Well, as I said earlier, we're preparing for the Bolesworth International Al-Shirar Concours at the moment, the inaugural Concours, and I've been helping to put that together. I'm the head judge and the chairman of the Concours, and thanks to the team there for doing such an excellent job of putting it together. I must pay a particular mention to Guy Lesage de la Villebrune for doing such a brilliant job of helping with the Concours. And we've got lots of cars that are leaving today and tomorrow. Dan is next door doing the final flourish, and that's why it's a bit frantic here at the moment. Unfortunately, by the time this video is out, the Concours will actually have happened. But we've got some great judges there. And I might even make a separate video about that, because we have some serious people involved in this event. But anyway, and some serious cars. I'm going to do a separate video on this because it's more than worth it. This is an ex-BMC Works Austin Healey 3000. This is a famous car. It was delivered brand new to the competition department at Abingdon of BMC, where the Monte Carlo Minis were prepared, that absolutely obliterated the competition. The Healey, of course, very famous British sports car, probably alongside the E-Type as the most famous sports car. But we've done some work on this to make it drivable, which it wasn't when it came in. And we're going to take this to the event. So we'll just go and have a look at some of the cars that Dan has been valeting. Well, we're preparing for the Bolesworth Concours, and Dan, who has been valeting here for over 15 years. Over 15 years he's been coming. And this is a car that I featured on the channel 2 or 3 years ago. It proved very popular, the Bentley Turbo R. This is a very, very original Bentley Turbo R. Like all cars, they rusted. But the body shell on the Turbo R was based on a 1980 Silver Spirit or Bentley Mulsanne. But this car has never had any paintwork. It is 100% factory original and immaculate. And I'm just, all Dan's done, it's had no attention, this car, for years, I'm sad to say, visually, apart from washing and cleaning. Dan has actually polished this car, nothing more than that. And I'm now going to show you the results. Bearing in mind this paintwork is over 30 years old. And it's never really been touched. Look at that. British Racing Green with red. These fine lines, as they're called in Rolls-Royce speak, are hand-painted and they are original. There is no step there, which means they have been painted and then lacquered over exactly as they were at the factory, or not, depending on which generation of paint was used. But they are, these are the factory fine lines, and this is how you can tell whether one of these cars has had any paintwork or not. It's one of the major tells is to see whether there's a step, because people mask off on the fine line. But doesn't she look absolutely gorgeous? I'm amazed at how this car has come up. The woodwork is all original. You tend to get just occasionally some seatbelt rash here, where people take off the person driving, which of course is the most common use of the space of the car. You actually have people who take off their seatbelt, but because of the strong spring loading, it goes round to their shoulder and up against the B-post, and can quite often take a divot out of this. Mercifully, this has not happened with this car because it's had very careful stewardship. It's had just one area of the driver's seat done by Steve, our friend and colleague at Leather Care. I would challenge anybody to say where the paintwork, his recolonizing begins and the natural remnant of the seat ends. But it's all been beautifully redone. But this car, as I say again, the woodwork has never been refurbished. It's just absolutely, this is a lovely car. And I'm going to enjoy driving this to Bolesworth for the Concours, just in superb condition. We've managed to get you in front of a camera, Dan, screaming and shouting.
Reluctantly.
So, Dan, you have been coming here for over 15 years.
Yeah.
You've used your polishing mop with regularity.
Yeah, yeah.
And you turn cars that are quite dusty and a bit manky into something wonderful.
Yeah, I do, yeah.
And this is another car that's going to Bolesworth. This is a Bentley Continental T, which is finished in a beautiful dark blue metallic. Done some other cars as well, a Lamborghini Countach, the Mercedes 450 SEL 6.9,
yeah,
which has also come up beautifully. I've sort of wondered about doing a video with you,
yeah.
making you cringe, about how you go about valeting an exotic classic car. But there are so many people doing this sort of thing on YouTube.
Yeah.
So there's a question. Would people like to see this or not? But Dan, you do simply amazing work. You were here till 11 o'clock last night getting things ready.
Yeah.
You are just an absolute precious part of the business. You really are.
Thank you.
And your work is stellar, as ever. So I've actually got him in front of the camera. Yes!
We'll do a video one day.
Well, that concludes another Tyrrell's Classic Workshop video. Please remember to subscribe, and we'll be back with something else very soon.